Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jason's Take On podcast with myself, Jason Noble, here in London and truly on the road to winter now, I think. And my partner in crime, Mr. Whitehead in the US. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
We today are talking about the topic of the customer success talent market today. I think it's something that is really topical. What's happening in the industry, what's happening with roles, new positions. And we're very happy to welcome the one and only Rohan Tailor. Rohan's principal consultant at ABR Talent, focusing on customer success, sales, and marketing roles. A big welcome, Rohan. We're really excited
Thank you.
with us.
Thanks, gents. Great to be here. I've been a listener, so it's nice to be a
On
part
the other side of it, absolutely. Rohan, I've known you for a number of years. We've met at a number of events before. We're just talking about Game Size Pulse event and how good those events are for networking and important. And your background's really key here because I think you've worked a number of what I call strategic client-facing roles, demand gen, you've done performance measurement, market research, as well as B2B marketing, B2B sales, and I think the world of account management and recruitment, and you've rapidly shifted into account management, sales, leadership roles, and sales leadership, which I think really gives you an amazing focus and understanding of what the industry individuals are looking for. But and understanding those roles as well, and also knowing and understanding what the world of SaaS looks like and the challenge we see in it. And I think from what I've known, but a big part of what you do is around relationships, it's around connecting people. So there's such a massive synergy to what we're actually doing in customer success as it is. And I think it's really exciting when you're positioned around looking at market opportunities, talent opportunities. It is, as we said, it's a fascinating place because it's something that's evolved rapidly over the last few years. I think one that's evolving more and more. So super excited to have you here. We've had a conversation with another leader in the industry for about a year ago, but it's the right time now to talk. So a big welcome, Rohan. Great to have you with us. For our listeners that don't know you, in your own words, talk us through your journey. What's got you to where you are now, and particularly into your role at ABR?
Yeah, so I never sat down at school and told my mum or dad that I wanted to move into recruitment. I don't think anyone ever does. I had big plans to be a spaceman or a dinosaur. So I've got a different direction. These things happen. But my career has always been client facing. I started quite young working on kind of the project coordinatorship and kind of semi-account management for some quite significant global automotive brands, working on market research and their training and delivery programs. So I've always been in that how can we optimize, how can we improve type of role. That led me to more outright leadership account directorship. And this was strategic global businesses, like Barclaycard or whatever class. This was looking at what are they doing and how can we drive to the better. So my focus has always been client success in the type of industry I've worked in. I then actually took a move away from account directorship to move into sales and sales leadership. And that was really to stretch a different set of muscles. I'd spent about 10 years working in account ownership, wanted to try growing and stretching new muscles. And actually, I find the two quite collaborative. It meant my sales approach was quite customer centric, quite consultative, and doesn't work with everyone, but I was fairly successful in it. And my sales role came to an end during COVID, as did many. And I actually found an opportunity in recruitment in not only a space that I really enjoy, which is the SaaS world, which I've been exposed to and worked in, but with roles that I have worked in, hired for, and applied for. So it felt like a really interesting opportunity to take everything that I've become and apply it to support people, businesses, and candidates to find the types of roles and people that fit the briefs and requirements that exist.
How's that journey been? And has it been what you thought it would be moving into recruitment?
Oh no, it was nothing like I expected it to be. No, everything I brought to the table was null and void. And then I hit the recruitment door. It's I struggle to explain how it works. It's such a complex process. There is sales, there is account management, but there are so many vast moving pieces. Unlike SaaS sales, your product's a human being that has emotion, has thoughts, has reactions, has challenges. And some of those you can anticipate, predict. Many of them you can't. And the same with business. Businesses have changed. And this is much as sales, but businesses have changes. Big can dictate where budget can be spent. So I've learned and refined my trade over time. I would say I came in with what I thought good looked like, quickly learned that I had to build scratch. But it's been a good journey. Approaching 3 years in now. So far, so good.
Wow. That's great, Ryan. Thank you. And they say 3.5 years now. So in that time, how have you seen the CS space grow and the roles evolve? And where do you see the biggest growth now or the biggest challenges now?
It's been really interesting. So I've been in recruitment in the customer success world, essentially early, during, post COVID. So it's been a real roller coaster. I think it's fair to see from what I've seen, customer success as I hit recruitment was the trending word. Everyone wanted customer success managers, and they didn't necessarily understand why or for what reason. And that's led to have now. So customer success was led by American brands and then applied to the EMEA market with a bit of delay. Everyone wants to bring them on. So my first year was find me a customer success manager. There was fairly limited briefs. There was fairly limited understanding of what that role might actually deliver, both tactically and commercially. And candidly speaking, there was a lot of money thrown at any given candidate that showed aptitude, customer success or customer centricity. Now, over the years, take the last 12 months, that has fundamentally changed. The volume of roles is significantly less. There's been a huge amount of redundancy at both enterprise and smaller business. And I think we're all aware of that. Anyone that is even remotely connected to customer success will be aware of that. And that's led to a much lighter volume of roles that exist with higher requirements and far more candidates trying to apply for those roles. But the briefs and requirements have changed significantly in terms of what we want. And if I'm looking at it candidly, the current CS market is probably what should have existed 2 years ago. This probably should have been the hiring methodology businesses should have applied because they now understand, do we need customer success? What do we need from our customer success managers? Does our product, our platform, our solution even need one to few customer success engagement, or could we have operated on a more technical engagement platform? So what businesses seem to be looking for in hiring now is probably the right brief, which might be awful to some people, but I think it's not just go find customer success, it's go find us the right customer success people and or solution.
Right. How do you see those briefs translating into finding people? Has it made it harder? Are there fewer people that fit those briefs? Are those briefs realistic for what people are looking for? What are you seeing around that?
I think there's two answers. So it's not made it more difficult if you genuinely know what you're looking for and you can work on that proactive outreach basis that we do. So as a hiring manager, you've got platforms that exist that will present to you applicants, whether it be through job boards or through lots of SaaS platforms. So as a hiring manager, you might think they're out there, they'll come to me, and that just isn't the case. One of the primary changes I think we're seeing is more commercially adept customer success managers. Now, whether the term customer success manager continues to be the main point, we'll see, but more commercially adept customer success managers that manage not only post onboarding, customer life cycle, and objective handling of results, but actually growth, development, cross-sell, upsell, but not only identification, but closing. And I will admit, I'm a fan believer that the CSM is the best person to procure additional revenue from a client because I don't think anyone else is close enough to actually have that depth of conversation. That's just my 2 pence worth. I'm sure people will disagree, but I do think that you have a person that is strategically connected to your objectives that should be a port of call. But it does just mean having more direct conversation. We're speaking to a lot of candidates on a daily basis, and it's understanding, have you been involved in commercial roles within client-centric positions? And how have you been with that? Do you enjoy it? Because if you don't, then this role might not be for you. I don't think it makes it more difficult for us as dedicated recruiters in the space, but it's certainly made it more challenging and time-consuming businesses to get access to the right people.
I think you've hit on some of the key, challenges and shifts we're seeing in customer success. The thing is, what does the future look like? What's the name in the future? I think there's a lot of conversations. Jason and I have spoken about this with other guests ourselves, and it is, I think, absolutely, it is. It's part of a sales function. It's a commercial role, and I know there is lots of disagreement with that, and a lot of organizations that split the two out. But I'm very similar to yourself that it's a strategic role, and this person should be able to have that commercial conversation and see it through to closing.
Yeah,
absolutely. If they're delivering value, it should all be there. What do you see as some of the big challenges within? I think we're in a week. It's Q3. We're coming into More almost. But this year's gone ridiculously fast. And when people talk about COVID being 3 years ago, it's ridiculous.
Mm.
So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges in the latter part of 2023, both for those looking at new roles and companies also looking for great CS professionals and leaders?
Yeah, so I think Q4 comes with its own seasonal challenge. There is usually a drop off in push to bring people in. December is usually a slow month for hiring. Then January often becomes don't want someone to start straight away because there's a Christmas hangover deal. So I think there is naturally seasonality in that. But I think the challenge comes from customer success, certainly in the UK, still hasn't worked out what it needs to be moving forwards. It's getting there. And I think everyone has an opinion on what it needs to be. But I think the big change, and I've had a few conversations with a few people, is businesses need to take stock and understand what does my platform do? Does it genuinely need customer success in a human form, or can I operate with technology and just an intelligent account manager? So I think the challenge now still remains what it has been probably for the last 6 months, which is each individual business is still trying to understand, do I need this person or platform to do what I need to do, or a combination of? And I think we're probably 6 months away from every business dealer. We now know, we've done some research, we've dealt with the fallout of probably going too hard on customer success in the past. I think my gut feel is Q2 next year will be my thing. Assuming nothing else drastic changes, and a lot of major world challenges, but assuming nothing else goes too bad, I think Q2 next year feels like when the customer success is into a better rhythm.
How do you, I was going to say, sorry, Jess, how do you see the world of CS roles changing next year? How do you see it evolving as part of that? Do you see there being less of a need for CSMs as we've seen them, and it becoming an evolution of an account manager role with technology and product there, providing more of what the CSMs are traditionally doing today?
Yeah, I think there is. I think technology has to play a part. It can't not. Personally, it's there and it's not going anywhere. So, and I guess the advantage of working in SaaS is by nature of this space, we work in a space where technology innovation drives change and drives benefit. So it's going to happen. And there's no point hiding away. AI will find a way to optimize what every CSM, every account manager, every support person is going to be doing. So I think there will be a point whereby technology takes off because it can do it much quicker, much more effectively with much smaller margin for error. So I think next year, whatever the job title is, account manager, client partner, the job title is up for discussion. But I think CSM will be they are there to translate insight into that. AI technology will present insight. What it can't do is translate that into value. That's a human element. Now, not every platform needs that level of value translation. Some are very transactional, some are very one-dimensional, some are very single departmental. But where you've got a more complex solution, technology will present you with facts and insight. The CSM will present it to the client and provide the genuine value that enables them to carry on using solution or enables the CSM of the business to grow usage of the solution. So I think that's the change, is there's going to be a handhold approach, but the CSMs need to be able to understand value. And I think that's something that does not exist with every CSM. A lot of CSMs understand features. A lot of CSMs understand benefits, but lesser percentage understand true value. And that's a big challenge. And that's where we are spending a lot of time for our clients, is speaking to CSMs that genuinely translate features and benefits into value to a business. And if you can't do that now, it's going to become more challenging to justify your role, candidly speaking, to your business when it comes to representing client ownership.
It's really interesting because that point on value is ultimately any technology SaaS organization is there to provide value for their customers. So you could argue that everybody in the organization should understand what that value is you're providing. And that should go without saying. Everybody, it's not just the role of the account manager, but your sales team should, your product team should. And I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of people have trouble articulating what value really is. But then, as you said, trying to articulate what does value for my product mean? What is it really doing for you as an organization? And I think we are seeing that kind of change and shift.
It's evolving, and I've always had this. I can't remember where I've heard it, but A customer success manager's job is to help their clients see value. That's and that's the way to look at it. So the value is, how is your client benefiting? If indeed that's the next solution. The feature is, what does something do? The benefit is, as a result, what happens because of that. The value is, it could be someone that is 3 stages down the line. How is their life easier? How is their objective achieved more easily? How is revenue pushed in the right direction? And you can really simplify that down by talking about something as simple as a car. You could talk about something as complex as a multi-layer SaaS solution, but the value is, how does your client's client benefit in a crude way? Where I've always looked at it like that, I find it quite easy to understand if the candidates I'm talking to are giving me that feel good factor. And if I'm sitting in front of one of my clients, will they genuinely be able to add layer that is value?
So I'm curious with where the economy is and what you were saying about hopefully Q2 of next year. Do you think that a lot of the companies that are looking to invest in CS are there so many candidates out there that are just being more discerning about the skill set and they've been burned in the past, so they're going to be more thorough in their search? Is it the economy has forced them to get rid of folks, or is it sort of leadership isn't convinced of the value of a CS department full stop?
Honestly, I think it's a combination of all, Jason. I think the boom to grow CS led to some bad feelings towards it from a senior level. It was not commercially measurable. Candidly speaking, it probably wasn't commercially feasible because of the sheer money thrown at CS, because it was deemed as what every client wanted. So there had been redundancy, but because of that, there is now, not hesitancy, reservation, but there is scrutiny on every single hire. And we are certainly seeing that, whereas before you might have a fintech client that might be open to hiring the HR tech space, a HR tech client that might take some of tech, that is still available. But I would say, we're speaking to an ad tech client, we're speaking to an ed tech client. They will want someone with background in that space, because that maximizes the chance of success and minimizes the chance of it not working. It speeds up speed to competency. It helps decision maker alignment. So at the moment, we are looking for almost a perfect puzzle piece for every single role. And again, that's why relying on inbound applicants is so tricky, because you have to screen a lot of CV to find that perfect candidate. Whereas where we're headhunting, we're going out and searching and cherry picking individual messages. So we can really add value to our clients' efforts. But that's why hiring managers are really seeing so much time, effort, and resources being sapped in the current market.
Wow. So also in the current market, if someone's out there as a candidate, what should they expect is different than a year ago? And whether it's the time it takes to find and secure the right position, if it's the salary changes, if it's something else, or how they need to present themselves. What would you say to people who are out there currently searching for their CS roles?
Yeah, I think from a salary perspective, salaries have changed. The salary group that existed is dropped now. There is far more focus on what I would call core / not entry level, but those kind of sub 50K CSM roles. So you've got loads of highly capable CSM that will probably offer 60, 65K. And those roles are far, far less so. So they don't exist, far less so. And the volume of competition is increasing. So there's not much you can do about salary as a CSM looking for a job. What you can do, and I've done a piece on this with some other CS kind of partners, is maximize your chance of connecting to people you're applying to. If you have background in XXX tech, ed tech, fintech, can you directly apply for roles in that space, apply your expertise of decision maker profile to this role? You can add value there, because you can talk about decision maker alignment, understand the challenge, the feature. If you've got maybe prior to your SaaS, if you work, let's say you worked for a school, you're a teacher.
Yep.
And now you've moved into SaaS. Then ed tech, there are plenty of ed tech opportunities out there, and you've got direct connection to the nature of the solution. You've got direct empathy with the decision-making units. So to CSMs out there that are wondering how to navigate, is what have you done? What's the genuine value of what you've done, and how can you apply that to the applications you're making? And I would say, be smarter. And it's tricky because some people just need to secure something, but I would apply to less at a more tactical way. Apply, send a cover note, maybe reach out to the hiring manager through LinkedIn and send a voice note, a video note, a cover note. Do something that makes you stand out, that enables you to add value, because you'll see the application might not get to them. So the value add doesn't exist. Send them a note, introduce yourself. I can't promise it will fix everything. If we're talking 1% increments, it might just give you that advantage.
Sure. I talk with a lot of people who are looking for CS roles. And one of the things I hear pretty consistently is I looked on LinkedIn, and it just shows hundreds of people are applying for this one position, or in some cases over 1,000. Is that a sign of that truly how competitive it is out there, or that people are applying who are not qualified, or it's all different locations being considered? And should people be disheartened by that, or should they still go for it?
Yeah, I think don't be disheartened. From what I've seen, again, speaking to lots of hiring managers, the reason we work with these guys is a, a high volume, even before the current situation, high volume of applications were not aligned to the role. So we'll never even get to the team stage. Typically, I would say only 5% of applicants are probably worth carrying forwards. And I'm being quite tough-brush and quite critical just for the purpose of the example. So even if there are 200 applicants, there's probably between 5 and 20 that are probably worth having a good look at and maybe screening. Now, let's assume you're one of those 20. That's still a lot of work for home men to do. So that's where I would say to people, just stand out from the crowd. If you get a chance to work with someone in recruitment to refine your CV, and again, myself, my colleague, we've done a lot of work on how to make your CV stand out, then do that, optimize your CV, but try something outside of pure application channels to make yourself stand out. Drop the LinkedIn message, try a voice note, even email if you can. There are lots of platforms that enable you to seek email addresses and open up lines of engagement with people that maybe are not the applicant recipient.
It's interesting when you talk about the volume of applicants there. Why do you think it is that there's such a difference between the volume versus the number that actually are relevant for that role? So going from 2,000 down to 520 is a massive drop. Why might that be? Is it just a people just who are applying? Are they just, is there desperation? Is there just a lot of people that have come into this space that no longer suited, or they've been made redundant? Do you think that's what it is, or is there something more to it?
No, it's a combination of all of those things. Again, firstly, the SaaS world is super exciting. Customer success is a great, fantastic role. Get into it properly. So there is a huge percentage of people that have worked in some unaligned space that want to move into the customer success world. And that's fantastic. That's great for everyone. It's not great in terms of this is not the best time to be segueing into customer success because it's so incredibly competitive. But there are lots of people that want to make that move into it and are trying their best to do so. You've then got those that have been redundancy and they are trying to find themselves a role. You've then got those that have maybe worked in a sales role that want to move away from high volume target-based sales and move into a more strategic client account with some growth roles. So there are so many reasons to move into customer success, but I think this has always been the situation. I do think it's just a more prominent role now than it ever has been before. It's carried a lot of attention. You think partner success, client success, account management, strategic client partners. I think there's always been a high percentage of not ideally aligned candidates. It's just compounded now because every hiring manager has refined their net from this is fine to this is what we're looking for now, which makes the viable capital pool that much smaller.
What are you seeing these days for the average tenure of someone in a CS role? Are people getting hired and fired faster if they don't fit the bill? Or people staying longer? And what's the typical lead time it takes for someone to secure a new CS position these days?
Tenure is tricky because again, it's been so turbulent. I think if I were to average it out, I would say between kind of 80 months, 2 years seems to be the typical average tenure. And that is big sweeping statement. It's been challenging because once someone finds a good CS role and a good business, they generally stick with it. But if you were to ask me what does average, it probably sits around the 18-month mark. And I've completely forgotten the second question. So less of the part two of that question.
What are you seeing in terms of the lead times for people to actually get hired once they apply to a position?
It depends on notice period, which has been slowly creeping up actually. Notice periods have gone from an average of kind of 4 weeks to kind of 6 weeks now. So that's something that's changed ever so slightly. But you're typically looking at, it sits between kind of 6 to 8 weeks. Once, let's say that we're consigned to find any of you gentlemen at a customer success manager, you've got from kickoff brief, 10 days in market outreach and qualification, a bit of calibration, call it 2 weeks of interview processing. So within kind of 4 to 5 weeks, we'd like to be at a point of offer or offers, and then a 4 week, 6 week notice period. Again, can be flexible. Some businesses are happy to let you go. It really depends on the book of business and key clients they're managing.
Why do you think 18 months to 24 months is quite a short period? And I know historically people perhaps get bad rep for such short tenures on the CVs. Is that changing, or do you think there's some reason specifically why we're seeing that typically being what CS roles are now?
Yeah, I think it's an out of what's gone on. A combination of that early COVID poaching. There was a lot of outreach and headhunting. So people ended up being offered crazy money to move into a comparable CS role, but with a 30% increase in their salary. Money's not everyone's driver. If someone says to you, I know 15K to your take home a year, yeah, this is it's hard to walk away from when your day to day doesn't change. And things were offered such as great perks, outright remote work. It was fundamental changes to people's lifestyles. And you then had the challenges of COVID and therefore the great in all the redundancies. So even people that were abroad have since found themselves away from roles. So I think the last 3 years have just been a bit seesaw. They will settle out. And I think, like I said, I think now is a consistent and probably the right hiring market to just find its footing in 6 months. But yeah, I don't think this is normal. I think this is driven by what's happened in the last 3 years. And I think it will find its feet over time.
I think, Rowan, this has been superb, and thank you again for joining us. As we said at the start, what we do like to do is give you a bold challenge question to get some really actionable insights from you. You've answered part of this already, so I'm going to phrase it slightly differently. As a company looking for the right CS professional, the right CS leader to join me, what should I be doing as a leader where I need that person? So turning it around, not as a candidate, but as the company hiring a CS professional. What are the things I should do to make sure I hire the right person, I get the best candidate in for the role?
I think be honest, and be honest with yourself, your business, your clients, your team. Everything about anyone you hire, whether CS or otherwise, is really about, does this person fit into the business? Do they connect with your decision makers? Do they align to the wider team? And are they an addition strategically for what you're trying to achieve? So is this a first CS hire? Is this a latter CS hire? Is there a skills gap within your team that actually you can add to have some CS ops experience? So I think genuinely take stock. Don't just go out and need a CSN. Find me one. That's not enough. It's not enough to find the right person. Look at how many clients they're looking after, size of client, because portfolio value isn't the same as size of client. You could have one enterprise client that's 30,000 staff strong across the globe, or you might have 10 enterprise spending clients, but are fundamentally different how they operate the structure. So really take time to understand what's their book of business look like, what's their day to day, are they involved in the commercial end? Do we have a sales team? So what do I need this person to do? Have a clear, honest brief. Be honest with whoever supports your recruitment, whether it be an internal team, whether it be an external team, because the only way you're going to find that person is by getting the brief and the requirement right. And I think too many businesses have probably been a bit, just find me a CSM. That's just not good enough to bring someone in that is accountable for a percentage of your business's turnover.
I love that. And I think it is. I think historically we've been, I just want a CSM, and there's this wide understanding of what people think a CSM is. But to your point, you've got to find the right one for your role. What is it you're looking for? The role is more commercial. So it's making sure you're really appealing to that right person. That's awesome, Rowan. Look, as I said at the beginning, now is such, I think, an important time for this discussion. We've seen so many challenges and changes. There have been economic challenges as well that we've seen globally. But just getting this insight here is really, for me, there's so much I've learned from this, the key takeaways from you. But I think our listeners will really get a lot from this. And I'd love to get you back on maybe in 6 months, 12 months, just see how things are going next year. What's the market doing? But as I said, massive thank you. This has been a really interesting call.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, we'd love to do it again as and when we get the chance to do.
Absolutely. And before we go, we always like to invite you to do a shameless plug for you, your organization, let people know how they can get in touch with you or whatever passion projects you happen to be working on. So please, shameless plug.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I would just say to anyone that is operating in the customer success space, whether UK, EMEA or US, ABR Talent, we are a customer success focused recruitment agency. Really embed ourselves in the space. And, if we can help anyone, whether it be with securing a role, understanding how to transition into a role, indeed filling a role for hiring managers, or just offering a bit of guidance as to what the market looks like. We've done a lot of vacancy benchmarking or job spec benchmarking to enable businesses to actually position their role in terms of skill set and or salary. So please reach out, ABR Talent, or check us out on LinkedIn. Myself or my director, Luke Bartram, pretty active. You can't miss us. Yeah, would love to connect and just grow that.
Superb. Thank you very much, Ryan.